Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another tasting. And I say another, but we have not done one in a long time. So, today we're going to be tasting what is at least 2018, but I do believe to be 2017, maybe even 2016 Silver Needle. I believe this is a Silver Needle that I got in my first year in China. Which I guess would have made it 2017. And I can tell because I remember this bag. So on this bag, you have, a typical Chinese scenery. But if you look close, whoever took this picture has two random tourists in the picture. And they just, didn't retake it. They didn't, ask these two people to move so they could retake it. They were just yeah, good enough. Shut the door. And this bag is everywhere. And this is in 2017-18. I saw this bag everywhere, and it always had this nice couple photobombing. So, yeah. Things to talk about as my water boils. I gotta reach behind the camera, get my monkey head. Where's my monkey head? My water boiled. Oh, there it is. Things to talk about now that my water's boiled as we drink tea. Big update. For those of you who are in my Discord, you know the full story, but I am leaving Wuishan. I am moving to Jiangsu. Wuishan, aside from tea, the tea has been fantastic and so much more than I could have asked for. Everything else has been a complete mess. My living situation, my work situation, and it kind of just, it went really bad. Basically, things started going wrong, basically the second I stepped out of the van. Within my first 60 seconds. Here's my first 60 seconds of Jianyang. The boss told me that the apartment building was okay to house dogs. I step out of the van my very first day, and security comes running up and tells me that there's no dogs allowed. That was my first 60 seconds, and it just kind of went down from there. So I'm leaving. I am leaving Wuishan. I'm going up to Jiangsu. I'm going up to Yangzhou. Yangzhou is not specifically a tea-producing area. It is not far away from, it is right next to Nanjing. But what that does mean is that does put it very close to a few tea-producing areas. It is close to, Hefei, which makes teas like Guapian and Huoshan Huangya very accessible. It's close to Suzhou, Hangzhou, so we're going to probably get a little bit more into green teas. I am going to try and keep working Wuishan as much as I can. And then I will eventually come back down when the time is right. So some of you, there is a reason for Yangzhou. Some of you may know, when I said Yangzhou, you might know what's in Yangzhou or who's in Yangzhou. But those who don't know, I'm going to leave that as a surprise. Let's just say there's going to be a lot of fun in Yangzhou, tea-wise. So what are we tasting today? Today we are tasting this we're going to call it 2017 because I'm pretty sure that's what it is. What does my dog have? A 2017 wild Silver Needle. This Silver Needle is from a maker who was the first white tea maker that I met in Diantou. This is back when I used to go to Diantou. And he was incredibly shady. He wasn't shady, well, he was not a honest seller. And I remember my first kind of hint was that he didn't want me to look at other sellers. He didn't want me to look at other makers. He said that everything I could get from him. And I was like, that's weird. There's a red flag. But then, and I wrote a whole article about this years ago. But then the other thing he would do that was, the reason I call him shady, is that he would sell me one tea calling it another. I asked for an unwild Yin Zhen, and he gave me the wild. And he didn't tell me it was wild, but when I tasted it, when I went back to Suzhou to meet a friend and we tasted it, I was like, this is the wild. And I messaged him, and I was like, did you give me the wild or the unwild? He goes, I gave you the unwild. You asked for the unwild. Of course I gave you the unwild. I was like, okay. And then I went to see him again a few months later, and then he wants me to help shoot a video for his tea, and he goes, and you can tell them how much you love that wild silver needle you bought. And I was like, oh, you motherfucker. And so I believe this is that tea. And he did that more than once. And I tried to buy from him again, and he, this time I was living in Huangshan, and I was like, okay, I want to buy this tea. This might have been 2018 now, the new season. I was like, okay, I want to buy this tea. And he goes, okay. I was like, I want this tea. I want 2 pounds. He goes, okay. And then I go down there, and he goes, we don't have it. I was like, what are you talking about? We agreed on it. Like, he said, no, we don't have it. We have this other one. You can buy this one. Buy this one. And I was like, no, I don't want. No, yeah, because it was, once again, I was like, I want the unwild. And he goes, we don't have the unwild. We only have the wild. We can buy the wild. Buy the wild. And this time I was really like, no, I don't. I want the unwild. And it was actually his wife. And his wife kind of just leans to him and just goes, he's a friend. Like come on. And I think I wanted a pound, and he goes, okay, we have half a pound. And he gives me, and I was like, sure. And then I was like, I'm never buying from you again. Wow. Not even in a good way, not going to lie. This tea has been far from professionally stored. It's bottom of the bag, been moved around a lot. Definitely better storage could have been had on this one. Strong flavor. Almost like coffee beanie. It's actually very coffee, which is kind of giving me that wow factor of white tea. Like, really, like, wow, like coffee bean from white tea. It almost feels like it's going to that kind of red tea shopware, like darkening, like the body is getting thicker and darker. Like, if you look at these leaves, those are some dark leaves. One of the reasons I want to do this tasting was because I had the other day I had Guan Yin tea from Guan Yin Zhen, and I think that's what it's called. And I don't think it's the same Guan Yin as Kia Guan Yin. I think it's a different Guan Yin. I would have remembered if it was the same Guan Yin. And that is a mountain. So if you're in Fuding, so you get off Fuding, you get off the train station in Fuding, and you can get a cab. And actually, if like the train station is here, the road to the tea-producing villages is right this way. Like, you go this way up the mountain, and you go that way into Fuding City. Which, by the way, is not a nice city. And I was talking to somebody else about this, another tea sourcer, and we were joking about it. We're just like, yeah, no, it's a terrible city. It's like a little dirty. It's just not much. It's not a good city, which is funny. Anyway, I'll leave that one, Steve. We'll go one by one. And so you go up. And if you first go up this mountain. So when you go up, one of the first kind of major tea producing villages you hit is Diento. And I think this is one of the main reasons you see it a lot when tea sources will go. It's a very accessible village. I think it is kind of the main village for white tea, because that's where the tea market is in Diento, like the fresh leaf market. And so I think other people will bring their leaves to Diento. Once again, because I think it is from the villages I've been to, it is slightly more developed, which may be because it's down the mountain. Recent years, people who live kind of up on the mountain have kind of started to come down and conjugate down. I saw this in Anxi. You had this mountain, and you had a bunch of tiny little villages, and at the bottom you had it was still a village, but it was a little bit bigger. And that's because families were just kind of slowly coming down the mountain, because down the mountain is much more convenient. The bus goes there. It's more space, because it's flat ground and not a slope. Anyway, more space and the bus goes there, two main things. But anyway, I digress. So Guan Yin Zhen, though, I remember one of the first, I think it was the first time, if not the second time I went to Guan Yin Zhen. So I get off at Fuding, and again, I think I was on a bus, actually. And we're on the bus, we're going up the mountain, and it's really foggy. It's a foggy day. And we pass Diento, and we pass all these other villages, kind of maybe not so tea producing, but these other villages on the mountain. It's foggy. We're going up this mountain, and then we just break through the fog. And the fog clears, and it's a nice day. And then a little bit up there was Guan Yin Zhen. So I thought that was a nice moment. I remember kind of breaking through the fog and it just being sunny. So I was having that the other day, and that one's from 2019. That was a 2009. Wow, actually, son of a bitch. It's not even that much older than this one. At most 2 years. Possibly even 1, because I stopped going to Diento in 2018 because I didn't like this maker, and then I found another. I kind of came across this other maker, and I didn't like him either. And I was just like, all right, I'm getting bad vibes from Diento, and I was popping into random shops and not really getting teas that I liked. Anyway, I digress. So I tried that, and that was fantastic. That was just so interesting because, it was 2 years old, but it still just had so much warmth. It still had brightness. It still had these characteristics that I like in fresh white tea and silver needles. Both were silver needles. This one is bitter. This one is bitter. This one is bad. It's strong. It tastes. It has that same taste actually that gongmei kind of has. When you get these caked gongmeis, has that dryness, that brownness, that twigginess. Not a flavor I particularly like, to be honest. There is actually something. There's you still get that white tea-ness from it. Like in a blind tasting, I very easily could tell this was white tea. Because you do have a little bit of that sweetness, that warmth, a little bit of something. But that's kind of in the side of the mouth. And just right in the middle is just coffee bean, tannic. It's just it's breaking it up. But it's almost interesting in that way. That this kind of warmth, sweetness is very much on the side. And that this coffee bean roughness is very clearly in the middle. It's actually it's ironically structured. That is a clear structure to the flavor. That tannicness is right on the tongue. Actually, the more I drink it, the more I don't mind it. Once you get over the fact, I wasn't expecting it. And so there's that moment of oh my God, what the hell? But then once you kind of accept it, you're like, okay, I can do this. You know, if I just accept the fact it's going to be bitter, and I appreciate the bitter, or I look past the bitter. You know, I don't get too caught up. I don't get too caught up in this bitterness. It's actually not so bad. And the lingering bitterness isn't too bad either. You know, the bitterness is not that kind of funky, weird bitterness. That's super strange. For me, white tea is one of these teas where, like, as much as I talk about nobody ages good teas, like, I sometimes joke, and somebody else, another major tea maker, a tea seller in the game, I'm not going to drop his name, but I met him, and we talked about teas, and he said it too, that, you know, if a tea is 10 years old, you got to ask yourself, why did nobody want to drink this in 10 years? So I often make that point. That being said, I am aging white teas. I bought One River Tea's Green Chaumet because it was fantastic. I bought it that first year, and I bought like 3 pounds. And the reason was to age it. I mean, not to age it, but the reason, like, I did not expect to drink 3 pounds in a year or two. You know, I was going to drink, and I must have drunk at least 1 pound in the first year. Yes, it's significantly less than when I first got it. But I also, with some of the whites I'm buying, I am seeing how they age, and I do actually want, and I'm curious about white tea aging, specifically Silver Needle, because especially this one, and then the Guan Yin Zhen. I really gotta figure out what that name is. It's like I say it, and my brain goes, "That's not it. That's not the name of that village. You don't know what you're talking about." Speak English, Waigoin. Lawai. That one was a little rougher, but I think I let that one sit wild. That one was a little rougher. But yeah, so it's interesting to see that one like kept its, and that was a really good one. I kind of knew right from the back. Actually, I didn't know right from the back. This was in 2020. It was actually the summer I got Pumpkin. I paid for Pumpkin, and then I had the guy hold her for a few weeks, for 1 or 2 weeks, as I went up and picked up teas in Fuding, and then went home and picked her up. Yeah, this is your tea. Or not this one. But she's below me, of course. I lost my train of thought again. Completely lost my train of thought. Pick them. Oh yeah. I didn't realize. So I go to this shop, and I went to a couple shops, and I was drinking with this one lady, and her kids were there. It was a nice time, a good vibe. The teas were okay, so I picked up her teas, and I was like, sure, let me get like half a pound. And it was actually funny because like I'd gone to another shop before, like 2 doors down, and her teas were really not good because I think she was a bigger maker, or she wasn't even a maker. She was like working for a bigger maker, so it wasn't even like her shop. And so I go to this shop, and I didn't buy anything there. I tasted a couple of things, didn't buy anything. She wasn't happy about that because I went to this other shop, was sitting with this new lady. Her kids came in, we had a good time, and as we're finishing up, the first lady comes in, and she's kind of like, he's not going to buy anything. And I was like, oh yeah? And I think I bought extra just to spite her. And I picked up a Silver Needle and a Bai Mudan, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty good, it's worth taking home. And I remember like a couple weeks later, I took it home, I was tasting it, and I was like, oh my god, this is really good, actually. Like, holy crap. But it was, even at the shop, it was clearly much, much better than anything I tasted in Diantou. Johnny next to me here. Johnny, do you want to come say hi? Come here. Here we go. Johnny, come look over here. He's a good boy. So now I'm really interested in silver needle aging, because I think silver needles age in a very, very interesting way. Please tell me that didn't stop. Okay, sorry, my screen fell asleep. I think silver needles age in a very, very interesting way. I think it's hard to find aged silver needles because, and it is my guess, it's because people buy silver needles to be drunk fresh. You know, if you buy silver needle, you like light, bright flavors. If you're someone who looks for stronger flavors, less, a little more bold, stronger flavors, you go more in the Baimudans and the Gongmeis. And so I see, someone who's buying silver needle for the light, bright flavors isn't exactly going to age it high. I'm going to move this down just so I can appreciate the level of cute going on here. Yeah, I know. I'm going to get closer. Are we stretching? Yeah, we're stretching. Can you get up? Come on. Let's go. Come on. We're working on climbing. Come on. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Okay. That's fine. Yeah, so silver needles is not something that you see aged a lot. And I find the aging to be very not so linear as some other teas. Like I more or less know how Gongmei is going to age. Gongmei, Shoumei. Like I more or less get it. I think that has to do a lot with the fact that you're starting off with simpler flavors and simpler profiles. Not bad, but just simpler. Gongmeis and later picked teas in general just tend to have simpler, bolder flavors. Early picked teas are lighter, a little more aromatic, and more complex. And so I think silver needles, the aging is just very, very interesting. It's kind of like you don't see it a lot, and you don't really know it. I don't know the path of aging for silver needle. I think I've had one aged silver needle. The last time I was in Diantou, because actually the last time I went to Fuding, the last time I was in Fuding, because the last time I was in Fuding, I got from a guy, and he had one that was about 3 years old, a silver needle that was like 3 years old, and it was actually really good. Like the aging it brought out this kind of chestnutty, nutty note that was very, very balanced, that very fit well into the tea. But he wanted a bunch of money for it. He wanted more than I wanted to pay. I think he wanted twice what he was selling the fresh stuff for. So I was like, I'm just going to buy the fresh stuff and wait for that to age. And I am doing that, and it's actually not aging the same. I think 3 years has passed, and I haven't hit that same point as he hit at 3 years. So that's the other thing. I think, especially with this one, I do think climate and environment is very, very important. I'm beginning to think about the environment for white tea. So I'm going to hold on to this one. Hopefully drink it in a year or two. And what I would really like for this tea to do is to keep going down this path toward red Shoumei, red Shou-pu, kind of that fermented, kind of hoping it keeps going down that path. I think that would make this saving of what really started out as not a great tea, by the way. I think that would make it very, very good. That would make it worth it. So I'm going to seal this one up again, and I will see it in a year or two. So yeah, I leave for Yangzhou in a few days. There's some last details with the last paycheck and deposit on the apartment I have to figure out. A really, really exciting thing about moving to Yangzhou, the the salary in Yangzhou I'm doing a training school, teaching English. The salary for Yangzhou is the highest I've ever gotten in China. And by the end of Huangshan, I was making pretty good money. This is higher. This is about 30% higher, 50% higher than what I was making in Huangshan, which means a lot of things. Well, it means I can pour back into the company, into Swedish do, starting with packaging. This last year showed me a lot of things. This last season, and the hard part about this last season is it did go down as I was having these problems, but it really showed me a lot of the holes in my methods and the holes in the way I do things. One of the big ones is packaging. There's this like super simple, I don't know if I have one next to me, I thought I did, the super simple brown bag with my handwriting on it, and that's getting old. I did play with stickers a little bit this season, but did not buy enough, so ran out of those very quickly. But I liked that. I did get people telling me that the bag had broken at the bottom. So I think that's kind of going to be the first places I really put focus into, organizing the website, getting. I put the shipping updates back. That page is back up. So if you order from me, I honestly had to take it down during this season, because it just got too overwhelming, and I couldn't keep up with the chart. And so I took it down, but then I put it back. It's up now. So if you've ordered from me, you can see at least there are things that happen before the tracking number gets sent to me. I receive the order, I send it to the shipper receives the order, the shipper sends it out. And then when the shipper sends it out, that's a little bit, usually the shipper sends it out and like a week later she'll give me the tracking number. Because it seems like she waits for it to clear customs before she gives me the tracking number. And so yeah, anyway, I'm going off again. But yeah, so going up to Yangzhou, yeah. I do have a Discord. It's small, but I like it small. I try to get into Discord, but I can't. I don't like the fact that it's almost too big. Just like the conversations are too, like, you're having a conversation and then somebody just blurts in something randomly, and then your conversation completely stops. And it's like, so I have a Discord. I'll put the link below. And yeah, I'll see y'all soon.